In order to do what is difficult, one must first learn to do what is easy. In observing himself, a man must differentiate between the four basic functions of his machine: the thinking, the emotional, the moving, and the instinctive. It must be understood that control over things begins with control over things in ourselves, with control over ourselves. Organic life represents, so to speak, the Earth's organ of perception. There is a war going on at the present moment. What does it signify? It signifies that several millions of sleeping people are trying to destroy several millions of other sleeping people. They would not do this, of course, if they were to wake up. Various writers, actors, musicians, artists, and politicians, for instance, are almost without exception sick people. Consciousness is a state in which man knows all at once everything that he in general knows, and in which he can see how little he does know, and how many contradictions there are in what he knows. Morality is merely self-suggestion. What is necessary is conscience. We do not teach morality. We teach how to find conscience. It must be understood that man consists of two parts: essence and personality. Essence in man is what is his own. Personality in man is what is not his own. Not his own means what has come from outside. A man's real I, his individuality, can grow only from his essence. The human organism receives three kinds of food. 1, the ordinary food we eat. 2, the air we breathe. 3, our impressions. Energy cannot be transmitted without matter. The whole of alchemy is nothing but an allegorical description of the human factory and its work of transforming base metals, coarse substances, into precious ones, fine substances. The existence of these higher centers in us is a greater riddle than the hidden treasure which men who believe in existence of the mysterious and the miraculous have sought since the remotest times. All psychic processes are material. There is not a single process that does not require the expenditure of a certain substance corresponding to it. It is no use troubling oneself how to recognize a wrong way. One must think of how to find the right way. A pupil can never see the level of a teacher. This is a law. No one can see higher than his own level. The higher the teacher, the more difficult for the pupil. The broadening of consciousness does not proceed in one direction only, that is, in the direction of the higher cosmoses. In going above, at the same time, it goes below. A miracle is not a breaking of laws, nor is it a phenomenon outside laws. It is a phenomenon which takes place according to the laws of another cosmos. These laws are incomprehensible and unknown to us, and are therefore miraculous. Time is breath. Try to understand this. A man may be born, but in order to be born, he must die first, and in order to die, he must first awake. It is impossible to awaken completely all at once. One must first begin to awaken for short moments. In order to achieve all this and to obtain results, a certain number of people must work together. One man can do nothing. Speaking in general, the most difficult barrier is the conquest of lying. If anyone desires to know and to understand more than he actually knows and understands, he must remember that this new knowledge and this new understanding will come through the emotional center and not through the intellectual center. In order to approach this system seriously, people must be disappointed. First of all, in themselves, that is to say, in their powers, and secondly, in all the old ways. It is necessary for the question to be an aching one. Formerly, I used to think that sometimes at any rate, there were some things I understood, but now I do not understand anything. It means you have begun to understand. Understand that you are being given everything that can be given, with the help of what is given to you. You must find the rest. You never answer any questions I ask. Very well, said G, laughing. I promise to answer now any question you care to ask, as it happens in fairy tales. Sex plays a tremendous role in maintaining the mechanicalness of life. Everything that people do is connected with sex, politics, religion, art, the theater, music, is all sex. The general law cannot be changed, but one can change one's own position in relation to this law. One can escape from general law. There was a fairly long pause. He sat still, saying nothing. After a while, I heard his voice inside me, as it were in my chest near the heart. He put a definite question to me. I looked at him. He was sitting and smiling. There is something in phenomena of a higher order which requires a particular emotional state for their observation and study, and this excludes any possibility of properly conducted laboratory experiments and observations. The first thing I could record was the weakening in me of that extreme individualism, which up to that time had been the fundamental feature in my attitude to life. I began to see people more, to feel my community with them more. This is a law. It is difficult to climb the hill, but very easy to slide down. One of the most central of the ideas of objective knowledge, said G, is the idea of the unity of everything, of unity and diversity. The ways which lead to the cognition of unity approach it like the radii of a circle moving towards the center. The closer they come to the center, the closer they approach one another. For the man who is able to make use of it, the Enneagram makes books and libraries entirely unnecessary. Whether he likes it or not, he shows his attitude towards religion by his actions, and he can show his attitude only by his actions. Therefore, if his actions are opposed to those which are demanded by a given religion, he cannot assert that he belongs to that religion. It will seem strange to many people when I say that this prehistoric Egypt was Christian many thousands of years before the birth of Christ. That is to say, that its religion was composed of the same principles and ideas that constitute true Christianity. What particularly astonished me in G's explanations was the extent to which so much has been preserved in its pure form, and how little we understand of all this. Everything in nature has its aim and its purpose, both the inequality of man and his suffering. When this work is finished, that is to say, when the aim set before it has been accomplished, the fourth way disappears. That is, it disappears from the given place, disappears in its given form, continuing perhaps in another place in another form. By reasons of the many characteristics of man's being, particularly of the contemporary being, truth can only come to people in the form of a lie. Only in this form are they able to accept it. Only in this form are they able to digest and assimilate it. Truth, undefiled, would be, for them, indigestible food. Intelligence is determined not by the density of matter, but by the density of vibrations. The intelligence of a matter is determined by the creature for whom it can serve as food. When a man decides to struggle for freedom, he has first of all to struggle with his own body. It is useless to think of the possibility or impossibility of big and distant achievements, and that a man must value what he gets today without thinking of what he may get tomorrow. When he really sees everything that his life is made up of and decides to work, he must be truthful with himself in order not to fall into a still worse position. Because there is nothing worse than to begin work on oneself and then leave it and find oneself between two stools. It is much better not to begin. I began very strongly to doubt that it was possible for me, or even for the majority of our company, to continue to work under G's leadership. I do not in the least mean that I found any of G's actions or methods wrong, or that they failed to respond to what I expected.